Hello and welcome to today's video. Today a bit of a different one. As I'm filming this, it's actually my birthday. I've got most of the day off and I've got a little bit of a rehearsal tonight, but right now I'm sitting at home just enjoying some of my favorite pens. And I saw this trend a few days ago, the 8 more pen questions, and when I did the original one a couple of years ago, I really sort of enjoyed it. I like having to think about these sorts of things. So I thought, what better time than this day when I'm sitting here to just answer the 8 more pen questions. So thank you for everyone who's watching and for everyone who else has participated in this. It's been a lot of fun, but let's get started. The first question is, do you have different uses for different pens? This is not an easy one to answer because yes and no. I don't specifically say this is my pen for this, this is my pen for this, this is my pen for this, but there are pens I use for specific things. Let's say the Pilot Custom 823, that has a beautiful broad nib on it. I'm not going to use that in my Hobonichi with its 5mm or 4mm grid, whereas I will use that in my beautiful Dingbat Pro journal, which is what I'm using for like my long form journaling at the moment, which has a nice sort of generous wide rule. Also the paper can handle it and it looks absolutely beautiful. So that pen is like a pen I like to journal with. My Pelikan M605 is a great pen I like to use in things like my Hobonichi because it has an extra fine, as are things like the extra fine on the Lamy Safari. I often use an extra fine Lamy Safari as like an EDC pen or when I go to work because I can use it on anything. So there are specific nib sizes that I will use for things, and the pens that fall into that nib size I will find for specific purposes, but I don't sort of set aside pens for specific things. The next question is, how do you choose what inks or pens you will use next? So this one, once again, it's not particularly scientific or anything particularly groundbreaking or interesting. I have a list on my phone and basically it's a to-do list. So TEUXDEUX is the app. And you can have lots of different lists within that. There are lots of apps like it. I just choose this one, it works for me. And I have a pens to ink list. And what I do is anytime I think, oh, I'd love to write with that pen again, I type the name of the pen in there. And if there's a specific ink I want to write, I'll say like, for instance, Pilot Custom 912 with Iroshizuku Konpeki. I think that'll be a great pair. So I say that'll be one I'll link up later. Or if I go, oh, I haven't used Diamine, Diamine Eclipse recently, so I'll put Diamine Eclipse in the list. And then when I think of a pen that'll fit, I add that to it. So I know when I'm coming up to wanting to ink up more pens, or if I run a pen out, I can look through that little list on my phone and it'll give me an indication as to some pens and inks that I'm keen to use again. Other than that, it's open up the pen drawer and if something grabs my eye, and the same with the ink. I don't look through the swatch book seeing what inks I'd like to use. I can kind of remember most, and I remember the tactile experience of most of my pens. And so it's a pretty easy way of just sort of finding a pen and ink that fits. And I suppose a lot of that is depending on the purpose as well. Once again, if I'm using the Pilot Custom 823 with its broad nib for journaling, I want an ink that's going to be expressive in that pen, whereas the Pelikan M605, which I really like as an EDC pen, sort of everyday carry pen recently, sort of a more professional standard ink like Pelikan Tanzanite, which I have in it at the moment, is a great fit. Now to question 3, which is, which pen do you prefer for long writing sessions? I don't particularly use pens that I wouldn't like for long writing sessions. There are some that are better fits. The Lamy 2000, the Pilot Custom 823 or the 845, the Pilot 912, the Pilot Custom 74, the Pilot Custom Heritage 92, all amazing writers over long sessions. Visconti Homo Sapiens, Pelikan M800, M605, the M1000. These are all wonderful, wonderful pens for long writing sessions. But I think for me, I like a pen that's got a little bit more girth to it, perhaps a little bit more weight, a good length. If it has to post, I want it to post deeply and securely. So something like the Diplomat Excellence A2 becomes a really great pen for long writing sessions. I want a pen I know will be reliable over a long period and one that I know my hand isn't going to fatigue using. So something that is weighted down towards the nib as opposed to back weighted. Something that's not too slim, so I don't use pocket pens for long writing sessions. Something like the Kaweco Sport, for instance, is one that I use for sort of a quick note taking and things like that, not one that I would sit down and, write 8 pages in my journal with. I've said this a lot on my channel, but a lot of my writing is actually writing out lyrics. It's how I memorize my next role, arias, songs, whatever I'm learning. And so they are long writing sessions. We're talking, a couple of dozen pages over a few hours, just over and over writing out words. And I can burn through an entire converter in one session without any issue there. So I need pens that write really well for long writing sessions, and something like, yes, the Pilot Custom 823 or the 845 are great because of their size, but even the Lamy 2000, I think the weight and the balance of that is almost perfect. Question 4, what is your all-time favorite pen? Well, I don't think it's going to be any surprise to anyone that probably my all-time favorite pen is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Age. This pen is remarkable. It's beautiful. It looks great. I should say mine, because I know a lot of people haven't had this same experience, but mine writes like a dream. So it's a pretty easy answer, the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Age. But in terms of pens I love writing with, Pilot I find hard to beat. As I said, the 74, the 912, the 92, the 845, the 823, they're pens that just are sublime. Question 5, if you had to choose one nib size, which would it be? For me, it would be medium. I know that's a boring answer. I don't use flex nibs. I don't particularly like stub nibs. Extra fine and fine absolutely have their place. Broad, double broad, whatever, all have their place. But a medium, I can write with that. I can do my long writing sessions. I can journal. I can do my to-do lists. It's a pretty reliable, versatile nib, and perhaps a little bit boring, but reliable and consistent. That's what I'm after. I'm a writer. I write with my pens. I'm not, even though I do post on social media about them and I show content, the majority of the reason I have these pens is to write with them, and because fountain pens for me are the peak of writing instruments. So a medium is my happy place. And question 6, following up from that, is what is your favorite nib grind? Well, if medium was a nib grind, it would be medium, but I'm going to take this as outside of like the standard nib sizes, what it is. And for me, it's an Architect. I'm left-handed, so stub nibs, the angle of those doesn't give me the desired writing effect, whereas an Architect gets closer to that. I like the way an Architect writes. I do a lot of printing as opposed to cursive as well. And so an Architect looks great on the page for me, and I grind my own, so I'll get double broads and things in nib sizes that I can get my hands on, like the Yovo double broad and things like that, and I will grind them down to, an Architect myself. I don't like anything sort of too strong, but stuff that just gives my handwriting a nice bit of shape. Question 7 is, if you could only use one ink for the rest of your life, which would it be? Okay, so my boring answer is Diamine Oxford Blue. I think it's a really rich dark blue that is super concentrated and saturated and performs really, really well. It's available pretty widely. It's not particularly expensive. It comes in 80ml bottles for less than 25 Australian a lot of the time. There's a lot of good things to say about it. It also comes in cartridge form in the 30ml bottle, so you've got lots of options. So Diamine Oxford Blue ticks all the boxes. But part of me wants to be a bit more interesting than that. Yes, I've got other inks like Pelikan Tanzanite that I use a lot, or even Lamy Black that I use a lot. Tsukuyo from Pilot Oroshizuku, Deep June Water Blue from Ackerman. Lots of darks that are almost sort of blue-blacks happening here. Even Diamine Blue Black and Diamine 1864 Blue Black rank really, really highly. But if I was having to go something a little bit more interesting than that, I'd probably go Ackerman Simplicity's Violette. It's a really beautiful sort of violet purple color, lots of personality on the page, comes in a great bottle, and an ink that I just really enjoy using. And question number 8 is, what is an absolute deal breaker for you for a pen or an ink? So I'm going to answer both of these separately. What is a deal breaker for me in terms of pens? It's simple. If the pen is not reliable. If it doesn't write consistently, I'm not going to use it. I'm not using these pens as a fashion statement. I'm using them because they are fantastic writing instruments, and they need to be fantastic writing instruments. If you look at the list of pens I use the most, the Pilot Custom 74 came out at the top of that list at the end of last year because it's super reliable and consistent and beautiful to write with. All the pilots are. I keep saying this today, but I'm in a bit of a pilot mood at the moment. So they're amazing pens. The Pelican pens write amazingly. Lamy is sort of everyday carry, or the 2000, great writing pens. Diplomat Excellence A2, Esterbrook Camden. Even my Visconti Homo sapiens, and now that's a bit of a sore spot for a few people because the fact that, well, you know, a lot of people have had bad experiences with Visconti. But a deal breaker for me, absolutely. If the pen doesn't write, or if it's not smooth or pleasant to write with, I'm not going to bother with it. And so there's been a couple of pens that I've had really bad experiences with that a lot of people have had great experiences with. It does go in both directions. The Mahjong Moonman P136, people raved about that pen. I couldn't stand it. So I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to write with it. A pen has to write. And if it doesn't write consistently, I'm happy to tune a nib and all of that to make it write better. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to use it. It seems obvious, but that's what it is. And for me with ink, what's a deal breaker is I don't love the super high sheening inks. I've used a few and reviewed a few, but after a couple of experiences where, you know, you open up the bottle or the sample and it's all crystallized around the top and it flakes everywhere all over your desk and the floor. And then you find it on the bottom of your feet. You find it all over the house. Every time you put your hand on the desk, it can look clean. You put your hand on the desk and it comes up and you've got like ink smears on your hand. Those highly saturated inks, I don't see the point in them. There's lots of really good performing inks that have beautiful saturation. Once again, I will use Diamine Oxford Blue as an example of this. They are healthy, safe, well-performing inks with beautiful, deep, dark concentration without being those sheen machine inks that just take it a bit too far for me. And the same sort of thing goes with shimmer inks. I don't love shimmer inks. I'm not going to use them. Not because I don't think they look impressive. Some of them look absolutely beautiful, but for my use, they don't serve a purpose. So they're not something I gravitate towards necessarily. So those are my deal breakers. And there is a bonus question today. This has been on a few of these 8 more questions videos, and it is, what is one pen everyone should have? I'm going to cop out of this. I'm not going to name a particular pen. I'm not going to say everyone should have a Pilot Custom 74, although that's a wonderful pen. What I'm going to say is everyone should have a pen that makes them happy. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the most fashionable pen or the most expensive pen or have a gold nib. Does it make you happy? I know plenty of people who pick up a Pilot Kakuno and are over the moon. That is wonderful. Some people need a Pelican M1000 or a Visconti Opera Master or a Pilot Custom Harushi. They need that. And if that makes them happy, then that's great. Never spend more than you can afford. Never spend more than you need. You know, don't buy something because everyone else has it or you feel you need to have it. Buy it because it makes you happy. Use it because it makes you happy. Does writing on the page make you happy? Do you feel joy using this pen? Everyone should have a pen like that. I'm lucky to have a number of pens that make me feel that way. And I've mentioned a number of them repeatedly today. But a pen that makes you happy. Be that a $50 Lamy Safari or a $1,500 Mont Blanc 149, a pen that makes you happy for whatever reason. If you want a brand name pen because you want something that is, you know, a status symbol and that makes you happy, great. But if you want something that you know is you're going to be able to take out of your pocket and write with it first time, every time, then find that pen. Find a color that appeals to you. A pen that goes well with an ink that appeals to you. But that is what I'm going to say. A pen that makes you happy, whatever that pen is. So thank you for watching this 8 more pen questions or 9 more pen questions video. I hope you found it interesting and useful. Like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. I just want to do a massive shout out and thank you to all the brands, distributors, manufacturers, retailers, you name it, that support this channel. It could not happen without their support. I love doing what I do here. I love sharing these products with you. I love sharing information with you. I love sharing my thoughts on all of these things with you. And if you've got this far into the video and you're still watching, a big thank you to you. Every time you like, every time you comment, every time you subscribe or share, it helps the algorithm and it all helps me to continue to make these videos for you. I want to keep making these videos for you. I've got some incredible products coming up over the next couple of months and right through to the end of the year. So stay tuned for lots and lots of pen related content. So thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you soon.